I'm not a musical guy. I tried getting into Hamilton, but didn't really care about the story or characters. The music was great though, and the personality was off the charts. I also saw Tick Tick Boom on Netflix and was shocked by just how great it was, and then I later saw Mr. Bo Burnham's Inside. Not really sure if it's a musical or just an album, but it was so good. Basically, what I'm trying to say is generally I like the songs from the musicals, less so everything else about them. None of them are bad. I think just for me it's really unconventional storytelling that I don't really adapt to. I know they are good and are happy for the fans that love them, but it just doesn't really jump out much to me. So what shows up with a soundtrack that chops to the top alongside a story for just a simple sponge? The SpongeBob SquarePants musical. This nautical adventure was directed by Tina Landau, known for her previously really unique work on Broadway, such as 2009's Superior Donuts, or a huge inventory of Steppenwolf Theater Company works. Kyle Jarrow wrote the book, which is not like a retelling or a reimagining of the musical. The book is just like script, stage directions, you know the rest. You might know Jarrow for the amazingly named A Very Merry Unauthorized Children's Scientology Pageant from 2004. Choreography is done by Christopher Gatterly, and both the jaw-dropping set and costume design are designed by the legendary David Zinn. And probably one of the most important parts of a musical, the music, was supervised by Tom Kitt. So I'm gonna predict your first 3 questions. Number 1, wait, there's a SpongeBob musical? Number 2, why did Nickelodeon make a SpongeBob musical? That sounds stupid. Number 3, can my upload schedule improve any more? To answer these questions, we have to examine the full scope of the show, starting from the ideas all the way to a full Broadway performance. So, get a snack, get nice and cozy, because I am doing a full retrospective of the creative, bombastic, shockingly good SpongeBob SquarePants Broadway musical. Our story begins in the early to mid 2000s and 2010s. Dates are a bit nebulous here, so I'll try my best to keep this really concise. Nickelodeon reaches out for directors with a vague yet crazy idea, a SpongeBob SquarePants musical. Tina Landau, soon to be director of the smash hit, gets a call from her agent discussing it. And so, just like my and many others' reaction to this idea, Tina declines the offer. I mean, who can blame her? The first thing I think of relating to a SpongeBob musical would just be oversized costumes mixed with like a plastic sheen that just really fails to absorb any of Steven Hillenburg's ideas or concepts of the sponge. It really does bring to mind just a blatant, boring, and drab cash grab. It just feels like some random old Nickelodeon executive guy going, "Hey, what are the kids like nowadays? Hamilton, sir? A Guy on the Dollar? No, sir. It's a musical drama built around one of America's founding father musicals, eh? We really dropped the ball last time for a musical. Let's give it another shot." "Yes, sir." "Oh, and get David Bowie again." With all due respect, sir, there might be a complication." "Get David Bowie, or you're going to work on Sanjay and Craig." "Yes, sir." But surprisingly, this was not the case at all. According to an interview with Tina, Nickelodeon, and more specifically Steven Hillenburg, were only interested in this concept if, quote, something can be made that captures what he called the quote-unquote indie spirit, in which he feels like he started the original series, end quote. Tina found the gold mine within this statement. Tina later went to watch some of the show and was surprised by the smart, witty humor at every step, especially stating, quote, "Then I started watching the show, which was a big part of it, because it's so surreal and wacky and full of non sequiturs and upside down logic, and it was instantly screaming for me to be put on stage. Because it's the kind of thing that can't be put on stage. You look at it and you're like, I would have no idea how to do that. I want to do that," end quote. Falling in love with the surreal elements of the show, the production really actually started right here. Landau specifically draws inspiration from the classic Idiot Box, and if you've seen the musical, I think the similarities are readily apparent. Now sure, one is about the potential death of an entire town, and the other is about Robot Pirate Island, But the attitudes are the essential bits here. Both are about making something out of nothing, whether that be an empty box or a seemingly hopeless situation. In a TED Talk, Tina specifically notes how one of the key aspects that drew her into SpongeBob and practically defined the way the show would be built was the array of ideas. In Idiot Box, the titular cardboard container isn't just a robot pirate island, not just an avalanche trip, and not just a race car. Well, that one's more of an exception, but you get the idea. SpongeBob, Tina notes, is a yes/and, not an either/or show. It's constructed from a wide variety of possibilities, not one reality. It's about every small part working to form something great. It's like a Krabby Patty. I mean, sure, you have the delicious patty and stuff on it, but it could be a Krabby Patty with jellyfish jelly. It could be a pretty patty, a barnacle burger, or even whatever monstrosity Bubble Bass orders. This philosophy coats the entire musical, and in my opinion is the underlying power source for this spongy smash hit. After researching the musical, I truly do believe Tina Landau brings the most essential stuff to the table. Without her, we would not have the musical we know today. Just from interviews I've found, it's clear she truly cares and wants to grow the idea of a SpongeBob musical. And by Neptune, I am so glad we got her. But what would be the plot? What's the music gonna be? What themes are gonna be covered? What is Nickelodeon going to allow? Landau instead focused on the core personality of the show, and the early stages of the musical were just pure workshops. Calls were made, agents were contacted, and the blueprints slowly but surely started to build up. Tina already had a couple of concrete ideas for the show. First, and probably the most important, no stupid mascot suits. Every actor had to be human. Tina wanted to avoid just copying the show and pasting it into a musical, so her version is more of a reimagining, if you will, of SpongeBob as a whole, but keeping the personal core characteristics still here. SpongeBob still works at the Krusty Krab, he still lives next to Patrick and Squidward, still has a squirrel friend, and most importantly, still retains his bubbly optimism. The musical didn't require the audience to really know the Spongy franchise. All the characters get revealed in basically the first 5 or so minutes, and their quirks and ideas are readily apparent. Now, if you do know SpongeBob, there's plenty to dig your teeth into here, including a slather of references, callbacks, and love for the show. Production of the production was incredibly unique. The first day, all the people, including cast members, stage workers, and more, all just found a giant pile of stuff just in a room. Tina directed them to embody SpongeBob. As workshops went on, Tina encouraged everyone to try their own version of SpongeBob. Want to wave around some pool noodles or mess around with beach balls? Go for it. Just have fun and try stuff. Landau was a huge advocate of getting in as much as possible. She really wanted the crew to embody their version of the characters, and it paid off with massive dividends later. As I'll talk about, this show is dripping with juicy, delectable personality. Dude, I've just spent like 3 pages on Tina's version of the show. It's gonna take a week before I even get to the plot at this point. Speaking of, what good is a plot or story without actors to star in it? Starting us off is Ethan Slater in what amounts to a fantastic role where he can really show off his spongy demeanor. Slater was hanging out in a friend's dorm room holding onto a SpongeBob plush while looking at a SpongeBob face animation reference page when he got a call from his agent for one untitled Tina Landau project. Upon examining the script, he found an odd scene of 2 characters interacting, one named Bubble Burt. Now, it's not directly stated in any interviews I can find, but this was actually just the bomb scene from Season 2's Dying for Pie, with some names swapped around. This did not fool Slater at all, who immediately recognized it was a SpongeBob musical. Other cast members would also receive the untitled Tina Landau project. Some would recognize the sponge, others wouldn't. I'll talk more about each individual actor in the next part. Alright, so we got an energetic director with a love for the unique elements of the original show, a fantastic cast and crew, now we just need the music. When you think of SpongeBob music, you probably either think of calming or even sometimes melancholic Hawaiian music. So how do we translate this into a musical? How about a gold-plated lineup of incredible music artists covering a range of genres from pop to rock, uplifting songs, songs about the world ending, songs about a daughter screaming for her dad to recognize her, songs about pirate discrimination, and more. I cannot understate the importance of this selection of artists as it adds so much to the show. We have Jonathan Coulton, best known for Portal's Still Alive and Want You Gone, the Plain White Tees who were on iCarly that one time, Panic at the Disco, Cyndi Lauper, the Flaming Lips who actually had a song featured in the credits of the first movie, my throat, and the Flaming Lips, who actually had a song featured in the credits of the first movie that is an absolute banger. How about some more? Sarah Bareilles, Steven Tyler and Joe Perry of Aerosmith, John Legend, They Might Be Giants, and more. Now, you also didn't forget about someone I mentioned earlier, did you? We even get a song originally by the late and great David Bowie, that being No Control. So, Safe to say, the musical element of this production basically cannot fail. And you know what? Everyone here wanted to make the music for the show. They weren't forced to churn something generic out, like Weezer's song in the third movie. It's not actually a bad song, it's just really funny to say that Weezer is a part of SpongeBob history. With all the components in place, let's check out what actually happened. Trust me, we're getting to the actual show soon, I promise. For the sake of brevity and to keep this hopefully concise, I'm going to be following the Broadway and live for TV version, which is broadcasted on Nickelodeon on December 7th, 2019. Both versions follow the same plot, but some actors were swapped around and some songs got alternate versions, specifically of the official cast recording album released later, but more on that later. Finally, after however many minutes I spent blabbering about the cool production, we begin on an animated short about theater etiquette. It's a nice little appetizer, you know? And you better have that snack I mentioned earlier. If you saw the Broadway version, it would feature a pirate sneaking onto the stage, but we'll save that for later. First things first, we get a formal introduction to the absolutely amazing set and costume design, both spearheaded by David Zinn, whose work stands out so much and has such an amazing flair to it. Look at this! It's so cool! Here, we have the best part of the show.
We're doing this on Broadway now. Like, it's real.
We launch into the cheerful, sunny-sided Bikini Bottom Day by Jonathan Coulton. Now, depending on how risky I feel during editing, you may or may not hear clips of each song, thanks to copyright stuff. Important to note, you will absolutely notice the fantastic sound effects. Headed by one Mike Dobson, these add an essential characteristic to the show. Just like the source, sound effects are plentiful here. Matched perfectly to each footstep, flip, slide, or any other action, Dobson immerses you immediately. It's also fun to note that his soundboard, featured here, doesn't have any labels. Dobson memorized each button, and his timing is still perfect. And to go along with the set design, he has on a sick Hawaiian shirt. This guy is the unsung hero of the musical, and as such was basically here since the start of production. Here we have the actual best part of the show.
Good morning, Patrick!
Good morning already.
Goldie's missing. We need to find her. Where is she?
Yeah, I don't know where Goldie is, but I'm allergic to shellfish, so
She doesn't have a shell.
I still don't know where Goldie is.
Danny Skinner exemplifies all the qualities we love about Patrick. His chemistry with the crew is fantastic. He is genuine best friends with Ethan Slater, and it shows. I think his performance is impossible to just not have fun watching. And here is the genuine best part of the show.
Would you two please keep it down?
Good morning, Squidward!
Another day, another migraine.
I'm the most Squidward cast member anyway, so it's lucky I'm playing that part.
I am going to just be flat out blunt with you guys. Squidward is my favorite element of the show. Lee brings out the pessimistic yet lethargic tones of our clarinet-playing octopus well. The slight, nasally aspect of the voice combined with a lack of interest in anything besides himself does wonders. And as I'm sure you've noticed by now, his fantastic outfit. Again, thanks to the king known as David Zinn, Lee gets extra legs for the entire show, and it will come up incredibly well later. And for the actual best part of the show,
What in chicken fried tarnation was that?
Hey, Lily.
Hey.
You like pie?
Yeah, I like pie.
How do you like this pie?
Christina gets the Texan mannerisms down well, but most of what I want to say will pop up later once the conflict gets bubbling. Also, we get a Texan ensemble during this segment. It's been like 5 minutes and I already love this show. In the crustaciously best part of the show, we then see
Mr. Eugene Krabs.
I had my license for 2 days. I hit my 5th grade teacher, English teacher, on her way to
like
her
her?
daughter's
Like human being?
wedding rehearsal. She had to go to her daughter's wedding in a neck brace.
Oh my god.
Brian, alongside Lee, are the two veterans of the cast. Some of the cast did have major prior experience, but these two provided experience and advice for the crew. But when there's a crab, there's always a plankton.
I've got a plan, and I went to college, so you know it's clever.
Okay, this one's called Bullshit. Sorry, Nickelodeon.
And yes, if you've played it, he does resemble Goro Majima from the Yakuza series incredibly well, and yes, it does scare me. Taylor just brings a comically fun element to the show. Backing him up is Katie Lee Hill, who gets to play his loyal computer wife. Fun fact, the original computer wife, Stephanie Hsu, actually got married during production to another ensemble cast member, Alan Washington, who plays Larry the Lobster. I think. The only source I can find for this is on TV Tropes, so I hope this doesn't age poorly. Yeah. Carrying on, we meet more of the Bikini Bottom population and end Bikini Bottom Day with a great showcase of all the important players in our musical. This is a cheerful explosion of pure, upbeat energy that also works to contrast SpongeBob's optimism against the rest of the world's realistic pessimism. Now, one concept practically every review brings up is the expansive and almost fluid character design of the show. If it wasn't apparent, this musical actually has some political crust to it. Now, I'm not going to cover most of them because it doesn't really fit this channel, but I will take note of how cool the LGBTQ+ elements are here. One thing Tina and the crew strive for was a kind of openness, if that makes any sense. The representation here is sick. It's so cool. This show is surprisingly progressive, and I really just gotta give it props for handling the kind of sexuality undertones of it well. As stated in previous videos, we stan all types of people, whatever way you swing or don't, or otherwise, except for the asthmatics and their frail lungs. There's just something sinister about that crowd. Sorry for lying earlier, but here is the actual best part of the show.
But Dad!
How do you feel?
Old. I feel like I can pay
Oh,
bills
wow. You feel old. Okay.
Jalen Christine Lee Josie brings out the ultimate teenage attitude to the whale of a daughter here. Fun fact, during production, she turned 19. You heard me right, she was 19 and on the SpongeBob Broadway musical. How sick is that? Oh yeah, and she also composes music. Pearl mentions a hip-hop boy band called the Electric Skates, who I imagine are a replacement Boys Who Cry. Krabs wants Pearl to take over the Krusty Krab, to which she really doesn't want to. SpongeBob pipes up but gets shot down. After our song gets interrupted by some odd earthquakes, we cut to a live report featuring the best part of the show.
Is that something we should worry about?
Nah.
Breaking news! That is something we should worry about.
Early, I'm so happy on the inside, on the outside.
Not so much.
Kelvin isn't technically a part of the main cast, but I don't care. Look at that hair, that style, the character. Perch Perkins reports on the looming danger of one Mount Humongous, a newly active volcano that threatens to erupt and destroy everything. Luckily, the Bikini Bottom mayor has a plan, and it is an enforced, isolated lockdown requiring every fish to stay in their homes. Wonder where I've seen this before. Thus, we start our next number, David Bowie's eerie, despair-ridden No Control.
They'll see. Everything is under control, right?
While not originally for the show, lyrics were altered to fit the scenario here. It's a tense, low tune about the sheer chaos of Bikini Bottom's hopeless fate. It also has one of my favorite lines in the show.
Going to be fine, Sandy. The mayor said she'll handle it, and everyone knows you can always trust the government.
Yeah, the musical works really well for both kids and adults. With a scientific study, Sandy finds that Bikini Bottom is doomed to fall to this volcano. Thus, even more pandemonium erupts and the town starts to really split, including Slater, who actually worked with a contortionist to be able to do all these elastic maneuvers you'll see throughout the show. We then follow SpongeBob as he goes to discuss with Patrick, and both display their current thoughts on the matter. This musical is also really good for you if you want to rewatch, as there's almost a throwaway line about Patrick wanting some respect, which we'll come back to way down the line. Launching into the rustic BFF, we get a jolly tune really highlighting the friendship between our Sponge and Starfish. BFF is by the Plain White Tees, and it also just really helps to show off the prop design here. Like, look at this stretchy accordion couch. That's cool. Again, David Zinn is a god here. Originally, these BFF signs were supposed to be bubbles, but as expected, that's pretty difficult to pull off, so we settled for these creepy walking guys. After a quick commercial break, we resume back for a meeting with the mayor, giving us a limited time frame of basically a day and a half before Bikini Bottom becomes Bikini Boiled. Sandy proposes a solution to stop the disaster, but we cut into Plankton, realizing this is the perfect time to enact his hypnosis plan. And, surprisingly, on my first view of this, we get straight up racism in the show.
I've been studying Bikini Bottom for years now. If you just trust me...
Why should we trust you? You're not even from here.
Wow. To stir some fear-mongering broth into this fishy stew, Plankton decides to convince everyone through song, and then we are given When the Going Gets Tough by T.I. Yeah, as in the rapper T.I. And I love it. Finding the perfect solution of a giant escape pod, Plankton proposes it to the rest of the town, with a hidden agenda of utilizing it for his hypnosis plan. And Taylor shows off probably the scariest part of this entire show. I do not care about copyright, this is going to get shown now. This is not on the studio recording. You want that avalanche of lyrical work? You can only get it through the production. And with that performance, he wins over the crowd, including myself. Unfortunately, Bikini Bottom's treasury can't really afford the escape pod, so with a plan to attract the electric skates to make a benefit concert to pay for the escape pod, we've got a plan.
Yeah! The only way I ever give money is if a celebrity asks.
Squid gets saddled with managing it, to which he instead wanted to perform. Standing as really the only person against leaving Bikini Bottom, SpongeBob tries his best to stick up for the town, but fails pretty badly. And now he can't even convince Sandy to help, considering she's now suffering from literal racism and doesn't want to help this awful town. You know, maybe they deserve it. At this poor moment of despair, we launch into Panic at the Disco's Just a Simple Sponge. Out of all the songs here, this one is one of, if not the biggest hit here. An inspiring pop rock ballad uplifts our spongy protagonist and reminds him and the audience about his many qualities. He's not a simple sponge, and you better remember it. I think this song really nails down just the pure SpongeBob idea. His optimism will always win out. Always. It's the philosophy of the show. I don't mean that rhetorically, that was literally a commandment in the original Pitch Bible. This is a fantastic song and performance, probably an actual 10 out of 10. It's not my favorite, but I can see why it remains so high up to so many people. So to contrast that upbeat song, let's have a tune about a family breaking apart. Krabs, refusing to really listen to Pearl at all, drives into Alex Ebert's Daddy Knows Best. The song lures you in with a jaunty beat, but man, they just lay it on thick here. Jalen's performance here is outstanding. Merging both excellent singing and acting, this is also a top-tier song. As Krabs continues to focus more and more on the cash, the song devolves into a screaming, singing argument between the two. I really gotta give props to both people here. Brian plays Krabs perfectly. He gets the low, kind of piratey talk down well. Hitting another tremor, the town really falls into chaos now. Especially, you know, with the whole racist mob that gets formed. I still just cannot get over that. The worst part? Dobson's a part of it.
What about the squirrel? That whole science thing is pretty suspicious.
Not only that, she has lungs.
Sponge and Pat find Sandy in the midst of jellyfish fields, downtrodden over her squirrel discrimination. To cheer her up, we get Cyndi Lauper's Hero Is My Middle Name. This is just a funky, fun song. How can you not like this one? It's catchy and it sticks in your head. Here, I actually prefer the stage version compared to the studio recording. The higher pitch and Dobson's sound effects add just a really nice sheen to the song. Sandy decides to help our pink and yellow duo and comes up with a plan to stop the volcano, but it'll require climbing to it directly. Cutting back, we see two legends interact.
Drum kits will go here.
Squid gives a great scene explaining why he wants to headline the show, but of course gets cut off by SpongeBob. With our crew nearly prepared to go, they get interrupted by a flock of sardines who earlier took Pat's advice a little too close to heart. And for a truly unique addition to the genres we cover, the queen of contemporary gospel music, Yolanda Adams, gives us the excellent and fishy Super Sea Star Savior. Developing a quite literal cult of personality around our favorite sea star, Patrick gets swept up in the midst of fame. I don't know what Adams was cooking, but by Neptune, give her more. This is a fun, energetic, almost chaotic song meant for a new Sea Star King. Unfortunately, this separates our heroes apart. Pat decides SpongeBob just isn't necessary and goes to leave with his new friends. Another eruption later, everything really does just go downhill. Pat's gone, the town is in a frenzy, and to reflect it, we end Act 1 with the flaming lips, Tomorrow Is. An almost bittersweet melody about the true gravity of Bikini Bottom's situation. I really like this one. We bounce back between Sponge and Sandy versus the rest of the town. With a single day remaining, most of the cast gets to vent their character's view of the world. Wayne Coyne, lead singer of the Flaming Lips, states, quote, It could possibly be the greatest song we've written yet, end quote, and I can easily see why. It's a melancholic midpoint for the show, and a fantastic way to end Act 1. You know what's not fantastic? Losing your data online. Luckily, Bhutan VPN is here and... Oh, I don't have a sponsor.
Program, there you go, dearie. It's free for you. Programs can't tell the characters without a program. I made it in!
Yeah! Our boy, president of the SpongeBob SquarePants fan club, made it to the show. Finally, he's gonna get to meet the sponge he's always worshipped for so long. And you know, it's not easy being a SpongeBob superfan. Trust me, I would know. But Patchy also gets overlooked for his privateer nature. Nobody takes him seriously, or honestly any pirates for that matter. So what better time than right now to do a number? Sarah Bareilles' Poor Pirates is a beautiful build-up full of pirate problems and prejudice. Originally performed by Jason Michael Snow, we get a special feature of Tom Kenny pouring his soul out into Poor Pirates. I know it's a really minor aspect, but I absolutely adore Tom Kenny showing up and getting his own number. In a way, it feels like a sign of respect from the original Sponge to this new imagining. Patchy's fantastic protest song attracts more Buccaneers to show up, and the song ramps up so well. I love the attitude of this song. I don't know how common it is in musicals for it to get crashed with a musical number, but like, it's such a cool idea. Our boy gets chased off the stage, but something tells me he won't be too far away. Resuming back to the show, it's the final morning Bikini Bottom has left. Just like Pen Pen and Evangelion, we get rid of the pet character as the tone gets more serious. God, I miss that penguin. The town is now purely authoritarian. Don't follow the rules, you're gonna get zapped.
I declared a state of emergency. You're either with me or you're against me. Now move!
Luckily, we have some hope. Sandy's developed the Eruptor Interrupter. All we need to do now is get to the top of that mountain, but our conflict-causing chum characters concoct a cruel concept, a charring cyclone to completely crush our main crew's confident and careful plan. We then get the grand introduction to the electric skates, here to rehearse for the benefit concert. Immediately, we get hit with the bombastic Bikini Bottom Boogie. Beautifully built by, nah, I'm just screwing with you, I'm not doing that alliteration thing again. Made by Steven Tyler and Joe Perry of Aerosmith, the electric skates play a truly energetic anthem to get you on your feet. Or fins in this case. Now hopefully you are seeing the insane stunts the crew did. These are not faked. They were completely legitimate and had to be practiced a ton. Can you say that any other Broadway musical features a double skateboard handstand ride? No. And if you can, I will eat one of my SpongeBob DVDs. Squidward comes in and strikes up a deal with the Electric Boy Band, cater to their every whim, and he can open for them. I mean, if it works, right? We've now gotten to the base of Mount Humongous. Instead of making a costly, huge prop, it's ingeniously used sometimes in the background or instead taking the space of the fourth wall. It's a really good and cost-effective solution, but SpongeBob is still feeling pretty sad after losing his sea star friend, so Sandy launches into our next song, Chop to the Top. Made by Lady Antebellum, Chop to the Top is all about climbing. Screw the fear of climbing an incredibly dangerous and hazardous volcano. Just focus and you'll be fine. And when I say climbing, I don't just mean the metaphorical climbing. This one is actually like a gym class combined with a music number. The rocky, crag-like design works surprisingly well with cardboard boxes, again feeding back into David Zinn's vision of an almost recycled concept of a stage. Everything here is common items. We don't need some super detailed mountain. I mean, even SpongeBob has shown us before that boxes work. Look at this set. This is so sick. Unfortunately, our song number only got our heroes halfway up the volcano. But you know, I wonder how Pat's doing. Oh hey, good timing. Pat, starting to realize just how unsatisfying his new life is, leads us into the melancholic I Guess I Miss You, headed by John Legend. Now, I'm not near tears or anything, but this really comes out of left field. It surprisingly does a good job at just punching you with emotion. At this point, any and all cautions I had going into this were gone. I do think this song is beautiful. And I mean, what's a good story without a little tinge of sadness in it? This is another fan favorite, and I mean, who can blame them? I think out of all the songs featured, this is nearly the best at capturing the emotional beats of the story. I say nearly, and don't you worry, we're nearly there. After that somber ballad, Pat breaks free from his sardine cult, but we cut back away to Bikini Bottom to see how stuff is going. Highlighting true, genuine evil, the electric skates go back on their deal with Squidward and start to relentlessly mock him, eventually resorting to a painful point for our downtrodden Squidward.
What did you just call me?
Loser!
Oh, no, 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 no.
Having driven out the electric skates, we finally get to see what Squidward really thinks, and I am so sad I cannot play it in full here for you. Please, I cannot recommend enough that you go watch this number before coming back here. After getting interrupted, stepped on, and pushed away the entire show, including his original song getting cut off like 4 times, Gavin Lee performs I'm Not a Loser by They Might Be Giants, and by God, it is a showstopper. Hands down my favorite number and honestly favorite moment of the show. Squidward picks himself up and rises to truly show off what he believes and wants to be. Exploding into a tap dancing number complete with the extra appendages, we get the most Broadway possible song here, and it fits perfectly. This is genuine fun, and I am in awe of it every time I see it. And it is the only number in the entire show that gets a standing ovation. As in, the song is so good that the audience claps partway through. This is a certified banger, legitimately a 10 out of 10, and you will guaranteed find it in my Spotify playlist. To add more, Gavin Lee accidentally voice cracks here, but it genuinely adds to the performance.
When others see me, they can't see the nobody that isn't there.
It suits his nervous and broken behavior before picking himself back up. In my opinion, this is the band geeks of the musical. For anybody with any remote knowledge of the show, you know that is one prestigious honor. Squidward's personal adventure here is fantastic, and it is cathartic to see him win, even if the entire sequence is revealed just to be in his head. But you know what? Let him have the moment. He deserves it. We cut back to the town and get a short song not in the studio recording, that being Bikini Tevka by Jerry Bach and Sheldon Harnick. To my knowledge, this is a reference of Fiddler on the Roof, a really popular and classic musical, but you guys probably know more about that than I do, so eh. An even bigger eruption occurs, and Old Man Jenkins thankfully gets crushed by one of the boulders. Serves you right for that squirrel racism, jerk. SpongeBob and Sandy nearly reach the peak of the mountain, but we soon spot
You can't be there, that's not the stage, you can't be there, you can't be up there.
The volcano, hit with a beam from Plankton and Karen, erupts violently, and SpongeBob gets separated from Sandy. All seems hopeless, but Pat shows up to save him. We get a nice scene of them reunited, but no time for that. We gotta stop that volcano. Enter the ladders. Oh man. Welcome to the peak of the volcano. Only SpongeBob can fit through the small spaces, so taking up the Eruptor Interrupter, he makes his final push for the mouth of the mountain. Here we get a reprise of Not a Simple Sponge, as Ethan Slater meticulously climbs through the ladders. And so fun fact, this was actually pretty dangerous. Not really any safeguards, this is pure monkey bar skills. The first workshop that featured the mountain, Slater was told to literally just play and climb it. No major instructions. Clutching the shot, the interrupter lands in the volcano. All we can do now is wait. But from the view of the peak, we see Bikini Bottom in pure disarray. Parachuting down, we find ourselves in the eye of the storm. Everyone backtalks SpongeBob, especially Squidward, who really just starts to conflict with SpongeBob's ideals.
There won't be anything left to save.
Deep thought, SpongeBob, but we're kind of busy here.
I'm not finished.
With 7 minutes left until a potential destruction of the town, what can we even do? Well, we can still make it the best day ever. Yup, the original Best Day Ever song gets repurposed here and complements everything. With doom on the horizon, SpongeBob manages to at least rally one last shot of optimism in the ruins of the town. Screw all that chaos and bad stuff. It's always a good idea to see the glass half full, and that honestly is the true message here of the musical. Amidst chaos, confusion, and more, it's all the more important to really stay in unity. I really love this rendition of the song. With a single minute left on the clock, we await Bikini Bottom's doom as the townsfolk band together. And they fail. The volcano still erupts, despite all their work. Nah, did I get you with that? Oh man, the Eruptor Interrupter shoots out bubbles as Bikini Bottom is finally saved. And to celebrate, how about we have that concert now? Who needs the electric skates? We've got everyone we could ever want and need right here. After seeing the townsfolk change their ways, Sandy decides to stay here and forgive those from before. But it's concert time, and what a better way to end it than with what starts it all, the final reprisal of Bikini Bottom Day, but now with a victorious change in lyrics. This is a pure celebration of everything, and God do I love it.
I told you I'd be back!
This is a great conclusion. Everything is wrapped up well, all conflicts resolved, and with what I believe to be improv from everyone, the SpongeBob SquarePants musical comes to its resolution. What a great show. And with the credits starting to roll, we end with a version of the SpongeBob SquarePants theme sung by the cast, a fitting encore for the show. If you can't tell, I fell in love with this musical the moment I watched it. I was wary, and I think plenty of other people were as well. I mean, even parts of the main cast didn't seem optimistic about it. But for every risk taken by the musical, it succeeds massively. This musical is dripping with personality and character. I want to talk so much more about extra stuff, but I want to have this video out before the end of November. Following with Tina Landau's vision, I think it came true. This reimagining managed to both distinguish itself from the source material, yet stay faithful in so many ways. You want the pure early ideas, themes, and emotion of SpongeBob? I, B-Tan, the certified SpongeBob SquarePants professional, truly believe they are located here in this musical. Through the experimental and bombastic designs of the set and costumes, the simplistic yet impactful plot, wonderfully acted characters, amazing score, and more I can't mention here, the SpongeBob SquarePants musical emerges victorious. Thanks to everyone involved, you have made art that to me and many others will happily stand amongst the ranks of the show and maybe even beyond. Oh yeah, and I forgot about the critic reviews. But you know what? Maybe that's okay. I think you should go watch the musical for yourself and form your own opinion. Who cares about what a critic says about the show? If you like it, you like it. Don't let them bring you down. I've been B-Tan. Thanks for watching.